Hi guys, in reference to testing, today we are talking about validity. Validity is a degree to which a test measures what it's supposed to measure. Let me give an example. If I wanted to test how high an athlete can jump vertically, the most relevant test for that would be a vertical jump test. But if I was putting this athlete through, say, a 300-yard shuttle, that's not a valid test to check an athlete's vertical jump height. Alright, let's start learning from different types of validities, and let's start from the primary one first. That is construct validity. Construct validity is the validity when the testing item or the test measures what it's supposed to measure. Here are some examples. If I want to check somebody's vertical jump height, the most relevant test is vertical jump test. If I want to check somebody's anaerobic capacity, 300-yard shuttle is a valid test. If I want to check somebody's maximal muscular power, Margaria-Kalman test is a valid test. If I want to check somebody's balance or stability, balance error scoring system is a valid test. If I want to check somebody's agility, hexagon test is a valid test. Now think about these in a jumbled way. If I was checking an athlete's agility using a 300-yard shuttle test, that's not valid. Okay? Or if I was testing an athlete's maximal muscular power by putting that athlete through a 1.5 mile run test, not correct. So all I'm trying to tell here is that depending on what we want to test, we have to select a relevant test. Let's move on. Now, also depending on the sport, we have to select a relevant test as a strength and conditioning specialist. So what test would you select for a basketball player? I'm sure you would not test a basketball player on a 1.5 mile run because that's aerobic capacity test. On the contrary, you would rather test a basketball player on an agility test, something such as a T test or a 5-10-5 test, a vertical jump test, a 300-yard shuttle test which checks anaerobic capacity. So, depending on athlete's sport, it is important that we select a relevant and a valid test. Alright, let's move on to face validity. Face validity is the appearance to the athlete and the casual observers that the test measures what it's purported to measure. Alright, so let's understand face validity now. So let's take it this way. A long distance runner comes to me and says he wants to get tested before he starts to train with me. And all I do is I put this athlete through tests such as 1 RM bench press, 1 RM back squat, 1 RM power clean. Now, these tests are not relevant to a long distance runner. That means these tests have poor face validity. So when the athlete is going to look at these tests, he probably will not respond to these tests in the best possible way, understanding that these tests are not valid for his sport. On the contrary, if I had put this long distance runner through a test such as yo-yo intermittent recovery test, which checks aerobic capacity, or a 1.5 mile run test, which also checks aerobic capacity, this athlete would have a better face validity. All I'm trying to say here is when the athlete who is being tested believes in the tests are being valid for his or her particular sport, they are likely to respond to the test in a positive way. So, how does the outlook of the test appear to the athlete? If it doesn't appear well, the athlete is not going to perform really well. But if it appears well, if it appears relevant to the athlete's sport, then definitely athlete is going to give their 100%. Alright, now let's move on to content validity. Content validity is the assessment by the experts for a test and to make sure that it covers all the relevant subtopics, and that too in appropriate proportions. An example, a testing battery for potential soccer players at minimum should include sprinting speed, endurance, kicking power, and agility. To ensure content validity, the tester should write down or list all the abilities which are going to get assessed. In addition, to ensure content validity of a test, the most important test in a testing battery should attribute more towards the total score. So if there are 4 tests being administered by a tester, the most important test amongst these 4 should attribute more towards the final score. Now we are talking about criterion-referenced validity. Criterion-referenced validity is the extent to which the test scores are associated with some other measures which check the same ability. So criterion-referenced validity has subgroups. The first one is concurrent validity, which means the extent to which the test scores are associated with the others which are checking the same ability. Let me simplify this for you by giving you some examples. First one, let's talk about vertical jump test. We can administer a vertical jump test by having an athlete standing next to a wall, and we can also administer a vertical jump test by using the Vertec equipment. Now, this is good concurrent validity because the scores of both methods of testing an athlete's vertical jump is going to be very similar. Now let's take an example of not a very good concurrent validity. Okay, so the skin fold measurement in comparison with DEXA scan. Now, it's well known that the DEXA scan is the gold standard of checking body's fat percentage. So these two do not go in line. So there is no good concurrent validity. Now we are talking about convergent validity. Convergent validity means a high correlation between the test results which is being administered and that it matches with the gold standards of the industry. I'll simplify this by giving an example. If I try to converge the skin fold measurement, which is a method to check an individual's body fat percentage, with DEXA scan, it is not a good convergent validity. The reason behind that is that the DEXA scan is the gold standards of the industry to figure out somebody's body fat percentage. On the other hand, if I was comparing results from hydrostatic weighing, that also helps you figure out body fat percentage of a person, with DEXA scan, that is good convergent validity because the results of DEXA scan and also hydrostatic weighing are going to be closely related. Now we are talking about predictive validity. Predictive validity is the extent to which the test scores corresponds with the future behavior. For an example, one could calculate a statistical correlation between the scores obtained after a test battery was run for potential basketball players with the actual scores of a basketball sport game, which would include points scored, rebounds, assists, forced turnovers, steals, etc. And the last one is discriminant validity. Discriminant validity is the ability of a test to distinguish between 2 different constructs. Here is an example. In a test battery, each ability should be checked independently, such as flexibility, aerobic capacity, agility, or anaerobic capacity. I hope this was helpful. I'll be seeing you again with more knowledge and more topic. Bye for now.